Can we please stand and give Bradley Elliott a round of applause and as he comes to educators.
Yeah, can everyone hear me? Great. This one's better. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here, and thanks for the invitation from Startup Grind. It's always nice to actually have a crowd. I live in Cape Town, and people there are a lot more fickle, so they don't tend to turn up to events. Welcome to Pretoria, and it's nice to actually have a much more inclusive crowd at that. This venue is awesome. I hope you've been drinking a lot of beer. The more beer you drink, the better I get. So grab another one before I start talking. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of firsts this evening. Usually this is a panel discussion, which is a lot easier, or an interview. So I'm technically the first person to stand up here and talk solo, so please be forgiving. Secondly, it's much harder to talk to an intimate audience than a larger one, in case you don't know. Thirdly, I was meant to give a presentation, so I was the first person to ever ask for a screen and not use it. So I'm just going to wing it because we had a few technical difficulties. But basically the format that I want to talk, or what I want to talk about tonight is you've heard about, about technology in e-commerce and fulfillment and all the sexy stuff. But what I really want to talk about for the next 30 minutes is the role of trust in e-commerce and in customer centricity. And I think, man, I'm really bad with names. What's the name of your company? Carry Case. We're talking about that sort of intimate customer service, and it really started ringing true. So after that, we can have a Q&A. I'm sure there'll be some questions. I definitely don't know everything. I'm sure there are a lot of smarter people in the room than I am, so it'll be good to open up the forum and just have an open chat around South Africa's e-commerce as well, because we did one of the largest online retail reports last year in conjunction with Visa. So we do have some insights there, but I didn't want to sit up here and bore you with a whole bunch of stats, which I'm sure you can get online anyway. So I think I want to start off with a bit of a story. I met a person called Narina. She lives out in Stellenbosch, which is 60 kilometers outside of Cape Town, in the Western Cape. And the Western Cape, in case you don't know, is the most wired city in South Africa. 75% of people have internet access there versus 50% in Gauteng. And she's 24. She's a beauty blogger. She's studying fashion. She's on Facebook and Instagram daily. But one thing she's never, ever done is shop online, ever. And I thought that was quite surprising because, we have these sort of stereotypes or segments as marketers. We go, millennials, they're tech savvy, they're connected to devices, they shop online, that's what they do. But actually, she said that the main reason she doesn't shop online, there was a whole paragraph which I was going to read out, but I don't have it now. But the main reason she doesn't shop online is because, A, she doesn't really know how to, as surprising as that sounds. She doesn't understand what happens once she's placed an order, what actually goes on in the background. No one's really ever explained that. And secondly, or most importantly, is that she just doesn't trust it. And she's not alone, because the number one reason people don't shop online worldwide is trust. In fact, 49% of people don't shop online because they don't trust e-commerce. And that is quite a significant stat. So last year, at the Africa e-commerce forum, the e-commerce foundation also released 6 other reasons, or 6 more reasons why people don't shop online. And I'm sure these will all ring true with you if you've sort of went through your first online shopping experience. Will my order actually arrive? Is what I ordered real or fake? Is the store I'm buying from real or fake? Can I return my product? Is my data private? And is the transaction secure? Which is obviously why PayFast are in the room, or were meant to be in the room, because they make sure that happens. So clearly people are really, really worried about being conned and ripped off. And I think maybe let's just do a quick quiz. The number one cyber criminal in the world. Any ideas where that person is from? Yeah, you see, entrepreneurs know everything. That's why I love, yes, he is from South Africa. Russia was a good call, but it is. He's from South Africa. His name is Paul Leroux. And Paul Leroux lived here for quite a significant part of his life. And he started off as like an amazing developer and programmer and was using his skills for good. And then he sort of got lost in the dark web and started trading weapons and drugs. And eventually he ordered the assassination of 6 people through the dark web. And he's actually now finally been put into custody. He's got a very interesting, there's a very interesting piece on him, which you can go read up on the net. But aside from cyber criminals, there are 2 other really big culprits, according to Ipsos survey on trust and security that was done last year, with regards to trust online. And that's social media companies. So we look at like Facebook and the likes of them with their data breaches. We all know what's going on, how they managed to get that guy in America up on to become president. So political views aside. So obviously social media companies are a massive culprit. And also internet service providers also seem to rank up there. But the most surprising one for me out of the Ipsos survey was that e-commerce companies themselves are also to blame. So 57% of people said they don't trust online, just the internet, because of an experience they had with an e-commerce company. So e-commerce businesses are also almost masters of their own demise. They are equally as responsible for the diminishing trust. So the good news is that this can all be overcome. It's really not difficult. It's about how you build trust, and I'll get into that just now. But the stats show that once someone buys online, they are twice as likely to buy online again. So once someone's in that cycle, and so once someone's actually purchasing online, they tend to they trust the system more. So it actually is like this great circle. And when you start doing that and you start accounting for those sales, this is not a small game. It can lead to like exponential category growth and country growth. So a couple of years back, you might recall that Nigeria became Africa's largest economy. And the reason they became Africa's largest economy was because they started accounting for online sales in their GDP, which actually pushed them over South Africa. So they reached that magical sort of 2% of total retail sales were being done online. And that's a number that once you start getting over 2%, things really start to rapidly scale. So I'll talk about, I want to talk, before I get to building trust, I want to talk about the profile of a normal online shopper. Interviewed another guy out in Kenya, Henry De Leon. You can go look him up if you don't. I'm not making up names, guys, I promise you. He lives in a small town in Kenya, population's 20,000 people. The only real access to stores they've got is they've got JD stores, which is like a USave equivalent, and they've got Happy Market. Happy Market is like an M-Pesa-based store, which is kind of like an entry-level Spar, so slightly more premium, but nothing amazing, right? But Henry is a human like the rest of us. He loves Barcelona, football club that is. Don't ask me why. He plays PlayStation. He wants to look good when he goes on dates. Any ideas where he buys his Nikes from? Nike store? Street market? Probably. So he buys from Jumia. How many people know the company Jumia? Jumia, yeah. Jumia? Jumia. So Jumia, for those of you who don't know, is a company that comes out of Nigeria, and it operates in 14 countries. It's got 4 million active customers and over 50,000 active sellers. And Jumia is Africa's first unicorn. That means they're the first company privately held to have a valuation of over $1 billion So just slightly ahead of Yoko. You guys all missed it. So they've just filed to list on the New York Stock Exchange as well. That happened last month. And if you read their filing report, you'll actually understand how tough it is to scale e-commerce in Africa. But the one thing that Jumia have got like relentlessly, something they're totally relentless about is customer centricity and putting the customer at the core of every single thing they do. And they understand the African continent and e-commerce better than anyone else. So they're like a marketplace. So they've managed to crack fulfillment through using third-partner scooter companies, as an example. They've got something called the J team. The J team will actually go onto Jumia and shop for you if you don't trust shopping on there yourself. So they'll actually... Is it a... It's not a dropshipping company. It is not, yeah. You guys are welcome to ask questions in between, really. It's cool. So they've actually got the J team who will actually buy for you if you're not willing to. They accept cash, which is obviously a really big thing because a lot of people aren't banked in African continents. And when they deliver, they really deliver. So they will deliver Nikes to Henry in his rural community of 20,000 within 3 days, and they do it. And they really actually deliver. And everyone sort of calls Jumia the Amazon of Africa, but I tend to be a little bit more controversial, and I tend to call them the Alibaba of Africa. I don't know how many of you know Alibaba out of China. Everyone know Jack Ma as entrepreneurs. I'm sure you all know Jack Ma. And there's a big reason I prefer to reference Alibaba is that if you actually look at the US and China in terms of e-commerce, now I really wish I had slides because like the numbers are in my mind here. So the US has a population of let's say half a billion. China's 1.5 billion roughly. They've got the US has got a higher internet penetration as a percentage of that. So roughly, I think 75% versus China's 50%. And the US does $500 million worth of sales a year. Any idea how much China does online? How much? 3 billion? You're wrong. I just need to get the figure. 1.3 trillion. So what happens is that if you look at that as a percentage of their GDPs, so bear in mind that the American economy is larger than China's, but China's is growing faster. So I've weighted all of these numbers for all of the statisticians who are going to go, oh yeah, but you're working from a different base. And no, I've normalized all the data. Okay, so e-commerce sales as a percentage of GDP, not just a percentage of total retail sales, but of GDP in America is roughly 5%, 5.5%. In China, it's almost 14% of their entire GDP, not of just online, not of just retail sales. And I believe that is why Jumia is more like Alibaba, because yes, Amazon is very client-centric, don't get me wrong, and I'll reference them just now, but really Alibaba are like possibly the most client-centric business in the world. And Jack Ma actually has a saying, some of you might know, he says, clients first, employees second, shareholders third. Anyone heard of an American company putting shareholders third? Just wondering. Alibaba? Jumia? What about the transactions? What, the transactions that I was talking about? Yeah, sure, but I'm talking specifically their China sales, not their global sales. I'm talking about China as a whole, not Alibaba specifically. I'm talking about how amazing e-commerce in China as a whole is. Alibaba only makes up a percentage of all those numbers I gave you. They don't account for all of the e-commerce in China, although they do account for a large portion of it. So what I wanted to get to now, sorry, now I've lost track. Where were we? Alibaba. is why obviously Jimmy are there, and how Jack Ma said, sort of customers first, employees second, shareholders third. So I know this is getting quite long, but if there's one thing I want you to take out of this entire evening of what I'm about to say, it's the next thing, and that is, if you want to be truly client-centric, and if you truly want to build trust, you have to know your customers as well as you know your employees and business. In fact, I'd actually say you need to know your customers better than you know your employees and business. You have to know everything about them, and you really have to look after them, and you have to put your customers, and I know it sounds like a sort of obvious thing, like put customers first, but actually understand your customers, and I'll get into that now. So there's sort of 4 or 5 things you need to do to start building trust. And this is not just in e-commerce, but because you've got technology, I think it does apply. The first thing is you actually need to make a choice as a business. I think, like as entrepreneurs, you are in a great space already. You have to put your customers first because it's a survivability tactic. Like, you cannot live without them. And as you grow, you'll tend to find that you will start disappointing more and more people as you go along your journey. It's inevitable unless you are really, really good. But really, it's a cultural thing. You have to take that choice to put your customers first, to be customer-centric across your entire business, that everyone in your business is focused on the customer. Once you've done that, you need the right technology in place. You need to be able to capture data. I know everyone talks about data, guys. Big data, thick data, thin data, fat data. I don't give a shit what you call it. Like, just start using the data you've got really intelligently. Like, if I get another female-orientated mailer from Woolworths, don't read into that. I'm going to freak out. Like, just use the data you've got, like, really cleverly, because when you understand people, you build personalization and you build trust. And that is what the top companies around the world really do. They try to understand people. They don't just spray and pray market. They don't just do basic segmentation. Yes, there's artificial intelligence. Yes, there's machine learning, which can automate a lot of this for you, but don't underestimate the power of human insight. So once you have that data, have really smart data analysts or humans deriving insight out of it, because there are certain cultural nuances. There's a whole bunch of stuff as humans, as critical thinkers and problem solvers, that we can do and derive insight out of that machines can't. And I'm a strong advocate for machine learning and AI, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying you must have that human element. And if you follow those 5 principles, sort of putting the customer first at the core of your culture, getting the right technology in place to crunch and analyze data, getting yourself or some smart people to derive insight, and then actually using that insight to create an understanding of your customer and be personalized, you can actually build trust. And trust is your entry point to customer centricity, and that is, and it actually allows you, what it allows you to do is, it allows you to transcend verticals. So you may think I'm harping on about data and trust and insight. Let's take it back to a practical example. Discovery Health, or Discovery. Anyone here, everyone know Discovery, right? I'm assuming. They just spend a lot of money on offices. So Discovery started off as a health insurance business, right? But now they understand so much about us, your behavior. Look what they've done with Vitality, Health, Apple Watch, that they've transcended into insurance, into banking now. And they are actually starting to dominate an entire industry. So they're sort of at one very particular point in the industry, and they're actually starting to transcend it. If you look at Amazon, Amazon is not an e-commerce company, guys. Amazon is an everything business. They're in banking, they're in logistics, they own ships, they own airplanes, they own pretty much everything. But what I'm trying to say is, if you understand your customer, you can understand them, and you can start transcending verticals. And I think for me, locally, Discovery have done that really well. They understand our behavior so well. They understand what drives us, what doesn't drive us, and yeah. And the reason I go on about trust and it in e-commerce and it building customer centricity is because customer centricity, once you are customer centric, customer centricity seals more sales. Try to say that 3 times fast. Okay, like it. Yes, do it. because it really does. And Amazon, going back to Amazon, they did 4 very simple things to do this. Firstly, they made delivery really seamless. Fulfillment, delivery, really easy. You got your product when you thought you're going to get it. Secondly, they went out and they actually tried to find the best deals for their customers. They really, really tried their best to do that. Thirdly, they allowed users to review other users, and that also built trust. They started using sort of network effect to build up credibility. And if you think about these things and you think like this is just a slam dunk and it's sort of obvious, okay, this audience is too young, but my hairline might give it away. Like if you ever used eBay, like you would understand what a shit experience it was. And like they were the giants, remember? And all Amazon did was come in and focus on those points, and they really just blew the market away. Finally, I think just on that note, I think that locally, who gets it right in e-commerce? Shoot. Definitely, we can get to that in Q&A. We can go on about that. We can open. I'll leave that for Q&A if you're cool with that. There's unethical practices in every business, but we'll get to that later. Maybe not every business, to varying degrees. But the guys who are getting it right locally, I think, if everyone always asks, so who gets customer centricity, building trust in the e-commerce space, or I don't even look at it as e-commerce anymore because there's a lot of uni-channel where you start going back into retail and everything's sort of fluid, and people call it omni-channel. I think omni is good. It tells you about like pulling real world together with online, with these ecosystems. But actually, uni-channel is like a phrase coined by Jack Ma as well, where it's so tightly integrated you actually can't tell the difference between sort of online and the offline world anymore. Is Yappy Chef? Anyone know Yappy Chef? Cool. So when Yappy Chef started, they followed those sort of basic principles I told you about. Everyone, Andrew's the founder, I don't know if you guys have heard of him, and everyone in that business, from the CEO like of a 2-person business, all the way down to people who were packing and fulfilling the orders, had a view of the customer. So they decided to build their software from the ground up, and everyone in the business had a view of the customer, what they ordered, where they lived, name, surname, all that type of stuff. And it was actually one of the packers who was packing something one day that wrote the first handwritten card. I'm not sure if you've ever ordered anything from Yappy Chef, but when you do, you get a personalized handwritten card from someone thanking you for your order, maybe throwing in a joke, whatever it is. And that's really, just that touch is what started setting them apart from everyone. And it's a tradition that continues to this day. 12 years later, they're doing 300 million rand turnover plus. It's that tradition and that customer centricity and that view of their customer which made them seal more sales and grow ahead of their competition. Even Andrew, to this day, still writes personal cards to people who order. And the business is much bigger. And they've actually broken into traditional retail now. They've opened 4 stores. I think they're opening a 5th one in Sandton, or they already have. And if you go into that store, this is where the lines get blurred. You go in, you want to buy something, they don't have your color. All you do is just scan a QR code, gets added to your cart, and it gets delivered to your house the next day. So that's really thinking about the customer at every single touch point of your business and making it as frictionless as possible. So when you're thinking about your online stores, when you're partnering with Africa to build your experience, really think about the user experience. Like, map out your customer journey at every point and think about how you can make it as frictionless as possible. Because if you make it as frictionless as possible, you will build trust. And I'm talking about checkout processes. How many of you have ever used a product or site? I'm talking about a digital product or site. And like when you just go onto it, you don't know what it is, but it feels robust, it feels solid, it feels well built and well thought out, and it doesn't feel clunky and sort of taped together. Because as soon as it feels that way, you're talking about people's money and trust here, it falls apart. So really consider, rather make the experience simple and much more solid and concrete and frictionless than try to do everything well, rather stripped down. So yeah, guys, I mean, I know this is slightly off topic. We can get into Q&A around ethics in Amazon and e-commerce trends in South Africa and all that data in the Q&A. But really, I want to talk about building trust, and I think I'll just recap that. Put your customer first always. Use data and technology and insights cleverly. Build that trust, and if you start repeating that cycle, it'll exponentially grow. So thank you very much. We can move over to Q&A.
You can use that one. I think. Thank you. Bradley, thanks a lot for that. I think there's a lot of questions, especially from this side. Can I see by show of hands how many people have questions? All those with questions, if you could come to my right-hand side, we'll start with the first 5. 1, 2, the 4 of you. Could you please come this side? But Bradley, thanks a lot. But I have a question. If I know that one should be customer-centric as well as build trust, if right now I'm saying I've been lacking in those 2 things in my business, which one would you say I should start with as I leave here? Or should I start with both?
You can't be customer-centric without trust. Trust is your entry point. So trust is your number one, and I'm not just, guys, if you think I'm harping on about something soft and fluffy here, please feel free to say so. But the CEO of Salesforce, I don't know how many of you know Salesforce,
yes.
$80 billion business. He put up something the other day where he asked an audience, what is most important to you, speed, growth, or trust? And a lot of people went for growth and speed. But in his eyes, it's like trust. Unless you're building trust with your customers, you cannot be customer-centric. So, yeah.
Okay, we'll come back to that. Can we please have those that are asking questions, your name, the business that you represent, and then short and brief. Thank you.
I'm Shingirai. I'm part of Enactus UP. Basically, my question, I just wanted to find out first, maybe an explanation on the whole QR code thing that you talked about at the end, how it can, where it covers, like the QR code has everything. You then mention what color you want and all that stuff. Does that, how do you create such QR codes? Because I think the only QR codes that I'm able to probably create are the ones that where you can only takes you to maybe a Google Docs and all that stuff, or to a WhatsApp business to communicate. So how do you create those? Because I think such skills probably are quite a challenge to figure. I don't know how.
Yeah, so I mean, I've got a pretty good technical understanding of development, but I'm definitely not like a programmer or developer. I think the people from Africa would be able to answer that question better, but my understanding is that each product has got a QR code. Remember that Jappy Chef is already online or has an app. You scan the QR code, it takes you to the URL of that specific product, and once you're on there, you can select your color. If you've got an account, you're already pre-logged in, so it knows your address, all those sorts of things. And those are easy to develop because, as you've already said, all you really need is a URL or specific address to go to, and you can generate multiple QR codes.
Good day. Thank you for the talk and that information. I come from a company called Resicon Solutions. So what we do, we build online shops and mobile online shopping apps for companies to help any individual to start having their online shop, from the store to training and consultation how to run your shop. But the problem I usually face with clients is the shipments. And that's one of the biggest challenges, because they come to us and they want an online store. You find that they have a product that's for like 70 Rand. And then when you use Africa, the prices start from 37 Rand. Or sometimes shipping around Gauteng on an average basis, you'll find that it's like from 70 to 100 Rand. And you find that you are selling a product, or the client is selling a product for 70 Rand. So that has to go now to 170. So how can I help my clients deal with the shipment issue?
Yeah, that is a huge challenge. I mean, listen, shipping and fulfillment is not a Africa or South Africa specific issue. It is a worldwide problem. Shipping costs, I mean, that's why Amazon actually want to own, that's why they've started owning that part of the value chain, is because, you know, it just gives them greater efficiency. I think if I can maybe look at the question in a different angle, I don't know what your clients are selling online, but people tend to think that because I'm selling online, I should be cheaper. And I think that is not a good myth or attitude to have, because people shop online not for price only. Obviously, when you look at like the size of Amazon and those type of guys, and you've got huge economies of scale, price does come into it. But you've actually got to look at, convenience is a huge factor for people. So they're happy to pay a premium for the convenience because they're short on time. And that's really another thing that Yappy Chef, I'm going to go back to them, they did really well. They knew they couldn't compete on price because their goods are available elsewhere for cheaper. So what they focused on was range and quality, a range that you couldn't get at any other physical retailer. They just stock such a huge amount of products in a very specific sort of niche and vertical that no one else can compete. And they probably are slightly more expensive, but they've got great customer service. So, shipping and fulfillment, I think the stuff that, what 3 Words are doing is great, but there are some innovations happening internationally, like with Jimia, where they're sort of using the community to do last mile delivery at a more cost-effective rate. So if you could think about, in South Africa, I think a great initiative would be to have like a central dispatch point in like an informal settlement, and obviously there's a huge amount of unemployment. So if you wanted to go and earn some money for the day, you could actually go pick up a parcel and deliver it to someone, and that would be a reduced, that sort of like last mile fulfillment would be their cost would be reduced significantly. Sorry, I'm losing my words. I won't say the word. The cost will be reduced.
Just then one last question. Speaking about trust also, because we build a lot of stores for clients and they also have the trust issue. So do you think integrating AI and machine learning and things like live chat and chatbots on the online stores, does it create some form of trust for the customer to have 24/7 customer service? Does it create trust in South Africa? Or
I don't have the data, so it will just be my opinion. If you want my opinion, I can give you my opinion, but don't take it at face value. Chatbots are an interesting one. I think they do have their use, and AI and chatbots do have their use in sort of making that initial sort of customer service really frictionless. So if it's a very easy decision tree, or sort of query, they can facilitate. Humans aren't stupid. They know that they're talking to a bot. So I think rather just be transparent about it. Be like, listen, I don't know if you've seen Naked Insurance. Naked Insurance basically can get you insured in like 5 minutes through a bot. But they say, I'm a bot. And they know that there's going to be mistakes and things made when the queries get too complex. I still think a chatbot combined with a human touch is important. That's my final take on it.
Okay, just touching on trust. What factors influence trust when it comes to e-commerce? Like the SSL certificates, what practical things should one consider and actually implement on the online store on their website?
Yes, as I said already, I think it was, I might have gone through them quickly, but people want to know, am I actually going to get what I've ordered? Number one, will it be delivered to me? Number two, is the payment safe? Is the product genuine? Is the store real or fake? Like I said, that all came out of the e-commerce forum last year. And I think it's really about nurturing people. So, I think the stuff you guys are doing is really amazing. Like we're only a team of 3, but we pick up the phone before they ask the question. It's almost, have you ever heard of that? It's managing expectations, so under promise and over deliver. And if you just communicate, I think that is really a way to do that. Whether it's on your site, have those, obviously you've got build credibility in any way you can. If it's putting logos at the bottom about being SSL safe or pay fast or Visa or MasterCard, do that. But look beyond that. Look at the way. That's why I said when you go onto your site, think about it being really carefully considered. Don't just stick up like, oh, cool, I'm just going to take a picture of this product on this table and then take another one over there. Actually put a bit of care into it, because all of those sort of small things build trust. If I just see that someone's grabbed a picture off the internet, how many times have you been onto a website? You can see that it's like a stock photo of the product that's just been chucked on there. You're already like, oh, damn, this shit real? Oh, no, you don't want to buy it. So just be carefully considered in all of those things. I think.
Can I just jump in? The previous question that you were answering there. I think in our experience, it's been a lot about, like you said, knowing your customer. So there's a group of customers that if you're selling something for 70 rands and you tell them delivery is 100 rands, they'll be like, are you crazy? But I mean, just yesterday, we got an order from Canada. Now, obviously, shipping to Canada is like insane. So this customer bought something for 1,000 rands, and then we told them shipping is 800 rands, and they were more than happy to pay that, right? So what we've found, I think, in our environment is that South African customers, look, to be specific, black South African customers will never pay more for delivery than for the product. So what we do there is we price for it. So instead of making the product 70 rands, you make it 100 rands, you make delivery 40 rands, if that makes sense. So you build a chunk of the delivery cost into the product itself. So it's depending on what we think a certain product will appeal to, you price for it properly. So I just thought I'd just throw that in.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. Build it in. I mean, you want to be transparent, so that kind of goes against my whole thing about being trust, building trust, because now it's like hidden costs built in. But I think the other thing that your Canada example specifically, and I'll just focus on that context, is because your product is very niche, and things that are very niche tend to do well online. So they can't get African bags, that's what you're saying, in Canada. So they'll pay $800 to get a shipper. Anyone living in South Africa will just shoot down into Brahm and grab something, right? Yes, that's also, you've got the right product.
Hi, my name is Katliso. I'm a graphic designer and photographer from Graphic Exposure. My question is mainly about e-commerce. How do you introduce it to people who are not tech savvy? Like, for instance, I have an uncle in Limpopo. I once went there to visit, and I was wearing sneakers, and he asked me about my sneakers. I told him I bought them online. Then he was like amazed, how do you do that? Then I bought him also sneakers online as well, and I also bought his kids like PlayStation online. And 2 days later, I came back to Gauteng. They got delivered, and like he was so happy over the phone, like I did something. So, and I mean, he's a decent guy. He's a teacher. He has like all these products like DSTV. He has premium. He lives a decent life, but he's not tech savvy. So how do you introduce it, in regardless of geographical location?
Firstly, your uncle sounds cool because you've got good taste in sneakers. So, cool uncle. I think it goes back to my example. Let's not stereotype people. You know, a 24-year-old white female living in Stellenbosch also doesn't shop online. So let's not like forget that it's not just your uncle living in rural, like Lesotho or wherever he is at the moment. But I think you've got to show people, and that's what I'm saying. You've actually got to nurture people, and you've got to show them. Like it's that famous saying, and I'm probably going to get it wrong. Like, give me a fish and I'll eat for a day, show me how to fish and I'll eat for a lifetime. So you've actually, rather than going and ordering his sneakers for him, you should have whipped out your phone and actually taken him through the process. How do you do that at mass scale? How many online stores have you ever been onto where they actually have a video showing you how to order their products? Probably very few. Probably most people just go, oh, I assume that someone knows how to add something to a cart, go to a checkout screen, put in their credit card data, go through shit-ass 3D Secure, excuse my language, I hate 3D Secure, just F's everything up. And I'm very opinionated in case you didn't get that. So like, how many people have actually just said, like, show me the process, like, show me what I need to go through. Maybe that's a thought. Do a video, show them, like, screenshots, like, of someone opening the app, click here, click there. We're not all the same, right? If you've got really good user interfaces, you shouldn't have to do that, but still.
Hi, my name is Mpo. I'm representing One Time Express. It's a startup business of grocery delivery, and
Cool.
I saw my competition online and I wanted to go to bed when I saw it, because we're still trying to find our feet and all that. We saw the gap, but we can see that there's still a lot of work to do. The question is, I think you've covered a lot on trust and all of those things. The first question I have is, how do we develop policies in terms of delivery policies? Because I saw online that you need those. Do you need a legal team or anything like that? And secondly, how do you, because we're so young and obviously we're hustling funds by, working there and creating funds. What market research do I have to do in order to get the funding to produce like an epic app and, site and all those things? Because it's still hard. We like, you take your allowance and you put in the company, dies out, but, but we've noticed a huge gap in the grocery, It's scary to say your idea in front of entrepreneurs because there are those that have the funds to just do it in a minute. But, we've noticed a gap and we want to step in. But I hope you hear my question. I'm not good
I hear your questions.
Yeah.
They're like, one of them is fairly easy and one of them is quite complex. The first one's really easy. Your shipping times and those type of things, just set the expectations, whether you're doing it yourself or through partners. Like I would technically, I would build in a bit of leeway there. So rather go 5 days and deliver in 3. If you know you can deliver in 3, rather tell the customer 5. Like I know it's, just build in that leeway because shit goes wrong and then you won't lose face. If it comes in 5 and you said 5, cool. If it comes in 3, they're like, damn, great experience. I got it in 3 and they told me 5. So, you don't need a legal team to do that. In terms of your privacy policies and those type of things, go to an online store and copy paste it and put your name in it. We're all hustlers here, guys. We're all entrepreneurs. Really. At the end of the day, don't go pay a legal team to do it. Someone's done it for you. The second part is how do you do, so there are a lot of things you said which I want to talk to. Number 1, don't be scared of competition. Competition means you're onto something good. Competition helps you educate the market. Competition, let them pay for all the mistakes and you can learn from them. Not all of them, but some of them. If you've identified, you can go do all the market research in the world, and you can do that on desktop research. So like I was talking about that online survey we did last year, like the biggest issue that came up with customers, so we didn't look at customers. So we didn't survey any customers. We surveyed 100 of the biggest online brands in the world. I'm talking Fashini Group, Edcon, all the big guys. And their biggest issue is that the number 1 issue is fulfillment and shipping. I can tell you that right now. 49 or 50% of them came out. Every single time it was a top issue they've got. And don't think you're alone. It's killing them. It's cutting into their margins. They don't know how to do it. So that already shows you that there's a need. In any business, I think there's this old school way of where you used to do a business plan to have a profit. And then when your shit didn't work out, you had to just sort of alter your profits to make sure your business plan weighed up, right? If there's a need in the market and there's a gap in the market and you fulfill that need, you'll always have a sustainable business. It's as simple as that. It's like business 101. So I think, fulfillment, there are competitors. It's a massive opportunity, massive. I don't know how it's going to be solved for, but if you can even help solve part of it, I think you'll go a long way. I don't know if that answers your question.
Hi, Osman. Cool. I think the most common theme here is obviously being trust, and I had a whole bunch of questions, and I think everybody has asked them. I just want to ask you about something else. So in all I've probably built about 10 different online businesses in the past, but the one biggest challenge has always been online transactions. My latest one, we have 10 different types of payment methods: PayFast, PayPal, Zapper, SnapScan, and all these things, and all of them. But I think understanding the market that we're in, especially when you're selling products specifically for this region, what other types of, I found myself creating parallel processes, or offline processes for payment. People order online and would have to maybe call, do cash on delivery, or do EFT, But how do you simplify that for this market? Not everyone has a credit card. Not everyone has, means of paying online. And if you're going to scale a business and reach as many people as possible, you need to also cater for that market.
Listen, it's a massive, it's a big question. I think a lot of guys have tried to solve for it through, using your bank account if you don't have a credit card, using credit cards, using cash on delivery. People even wear SnapScan things around their neck, like lanyards, come up to your door, you pay for it. If you don't have SnapScan, like if you don't have a bank account, cash is still even considered okay in some areas. So, I mean, I think I want to go back to the reason, or why don't people want to pay online? I don't know, I'm asking you, why do you think people don't want to use any of those 10 methods? Why? Yeah, I just want to.
So like, it boils down to trust, right?
Yeah.
But from my side, I can only build trust up until a certain point, right? I think gateways like your
PayFast, yeah.
and also have a responsibility on their
100%.
side to inform the market that
Yeah.
we are the,
So I think I think you're right. I think these guys should all get together and actually have like an educating the market through their PR and or a forum or whatever it may be. You're creating a body. So there's already the e-commerce forum of Africa. There's already what exists in South Africa, and it's relatively unknown. And they're actually trying to do that. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to build what they call like a credibility score, where they actually go on to every store and give it like a certified score from the e-commerce forum of Africa. And that'll look at how well you deliver, are your payments secure, all those type of things. And that is almost like a trust mark. Because if they've endorsed the site and they've given it 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 5, you know you can trust it. But to your point, even just picking up the phone and helping one of those customers, don't underestimate what you're doing. Yeah? Like, I mean, don't underestimate the trust that you're building, and that they'll spin off and go, okay, cool, I can actually trust this, and repeat purchase. Because as I said before, once you've got them in the first time and you've given them a great experience, they're hooked. Like, it's as simple as that.
All right, thank you very much.
No problem.
First of all, I think I should give a big shout out to you, Bradley, and also Monde, for bringing Bradley all the way from Cape Town. I think
Thanks.
yeah, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Yeah. All right. So my name is Temba Manyoko, Temba Timbanita. I'm all the way from Mamelodi. I'm representing Street Culture Group and also Temba Nati Interior Designings. You said something quite remarkable that, the longevity of an e-commerce company is dependent on the customer's trust on it. So I think it's pretty amazing. So the question that I wanted to ask was, is there an institution that specifically deals with regulations and holding both the brand and the client accountable in terms of complaints?
Well, not well here. I mean, you can maybe look at like the Consumer Protection Act and those type of things, but technically, that's what I was saying with like e-commerce forum Africa. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to be that body to regulate it. I mean, yes, you can go the sort of legal routes of. I mean, like now there was a case this morning that just came out with the Advertising Associate or Advertising Body of South Africa. I don't know what they call themselves nowadays, where One Day Only had put up I don't know if you guys know the site One Day Only, they're an e-commerce site, where they had put up a price of a product because they're a discount site, and they'd said the retail price was X, when in fact the retail price was never that, and the perceived saving was never what they said it was, and they're supposedly going to get a slap on the wrists. But yeah, I mean, it is, and it was only one customer that complained about it, but there are those sorts of routes, but you want to try and get away from that stuff as much as possible. And that's why I think Amazon did it so well, is that they actually built enough critical mass that they didn't need to have a body of people. They didn't need to have an authority going, brand's done right, we've done right. They had the whole community reviewing one another. Same as, if you review Netflix or whatever you guys review on Google. So that building in that review system was like a genius move, because when you go on there, you don't only probably look at the number of stars a product has, but how many people reviewed it. So, if you've got a product with like 1 review, 5 stars, you're like, But if you've got like one with 10,000 and it's 4.5, you're like, I can trust it, right? Yeah.
Hello guys, how are you doing?
Cool.
Bradley, thanks. Bradley, Mondi, thanks for organizing this. I'm Kumutso and I represent Made in United Music. So essentially what we are is that we are a digital music label, and our goal is to revitalize African culture, right? So I have a question for all of you guys in here. Nah? How many guys here have got this weird square thingy here, the smartphone? All of y'all, nah? Right. So they come in different names. There's Android, there's this funny one with a button mark on it. So here's my question. The music on your phone, for you Android guys, where did you guys get it? Where?
Maybe say Spotify.
Spotify. Yeah, a couple of us.
Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer,
We don't use those words with my company. We don't use those words. But okay, so essentially what I'm trying to get at is you mentioned that in Cape Town, 3 out of 4 people have got access to the internet. That is the foundation. So it shows that people there have become accustomed to using the internet. So consumer behavior there is different to this. If you look at my brother, where's my brother from Mums? Where's the brother from Mums? Yeah, my brother from Mums, where do you get your music? Let's be honest. I used to be a I used to be a digital criminal. I used to download whole albums from other artists. You get what I'm saying? And it's not a matter of, what should I say, that we want to rob our own people. It's just convenience at the time when you're still a student and you don't have a budget. So I'm saying my question to you in Africa, right? How do you change consumer behavior from, how should I say this, from that mindset of just like, you know what, I can just buy whatever album. I don't care if this guy worked 3 years on this album. I don't care. I want it now. I want to listen to Casper's music. I don't care. It's fine. How do we move from that to actually supporting our music consistently?
That is, I mean, piracy isn't like a local issue. It isn't like an African issue. It's a worldwide issue.
But in Africa,
Yeah, well, I mean, worldwide. I mean, China.
you mentioned that Amazon, right? In what, 1996, they started with books, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, that's in America. People could afford books. I mean, I can just go on the internet and download a PDF of that book.
Not always, but yeah.
Not always, but you hear what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think it's out of my realm, this question. I think it's too big. I don't know how to
think,
solve for it.
Brad, let's give the audience member to say this, to respond.
Hello everyone, my name is Solani. We have an online music store. So the problem is worldwide, and the only way is that you can do your best to market your stuff. A lot of things get pirated. We get Fanta from Kolokshin, the wrong one. So, but Coke is still standing. So make sure that you get your clients, be loyal, like the trust that he's talking about. And then that's when you'll make your break. So I think if you focus too much on how you're losing, you won't be able to move forward.
Good answer.
No, you've covered it, sir. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Mokhale. I'm a freelance developer. I want to ask you a question in your experience, nothing relating to that. How does AI factor into e-commerce in the future? In one, in terms of security. 2, in terms of big data. How do the small entrepreneurs get access to big data? We all have cell phones over here, but things like Google and Amazon, the policies allow them to monitor your habits online. And they build big data, and that's how they become customer-centric, because they know what you want. How does a small entrepreneur get access to that form of big data?
Okay, so I think twofold there. The first one was security. Are you talking specifically like fraudulent transactions and those types of things?
Fraudulent transactions and fraudulent websites.
So, I mean, listen, artificial intelligence and machine learning, whatever you want to call it, is made by humans, as you know. I think it's just about, in the future, it's already very much in place. Like, a lot of the really good AI and machine learning security comes out of Israel. They're doing some crazy stuff where they can detect, like, credit cards, like fraudulent credit cards, like to the T, because they've got every single transaction. So you're asking about access to data. I'm not going to call it big data because I hate that word. I don't know what you mean by big data. I'm just going to call it data. At the end of the day, everyone started somewhere. Like, where does it go to? So there's sites in the UK and even on Amazon, if you look at it, where there's a specific retailer in the UK, I can't remember their name. They've got over 1 million personalized home pages based on your previous browsing behavior, shopping behavior, all of that. So like literally when you land there, it is personalized for you from an e-commerce point of view to a certain degree. And Amazon does the same thing, right? As an entrepreneur, where do you get access to that data? You've got to have those same data points. You can't do anything illegal like GDPR, data privacy is huge. There are open source, I mean, you do a lot of open source stuff. I can't remember the one out of Google. What are their AI labs called? Google Angel? I think they've got like an AI thing called Google Angel, which you can look at. But yeah, I mean, my answer is simple. You've got to have your own data and your own entry points and use that. Forget about big data and AI. Well, don't forget about AI. But just start using the data you've got properly. Like when someone comes onto your store, understand, like you can track everything on that store. With cookies, you can track it and you open. You can put heat mapping software on there, like Hotjar as an example. And like you can track all of those user behaviors. And once you've got that, once you've got the data, you're fine. Then you can overlay machine learning and AI. And my point is to use it in a very personalized way where you understand an individual and you can literally you can change the way they behave and their trust. So for me, and I'll go back to Woolworths, they know everything about me. Like they know what I buy online. They know when I go into a store because I've got a card and where I live and what I spend and what I buy every week. And let's be honest, 80% of your basket every month is the same. Like, yeah, sure, you may chuck in 20% other shit. For me, Woolworths should send me a mailer. They could actually almost know when I run out of milk based on my previous behavior. They should actually send me a mailer going, here's a pre-populated cart with all the shit we think you need, because based on your previous behavior. Here's one-click checkout. You can remove anything you don't want, and it'll be delivered to you at 5:30 tomorrow because we know you finish work at 5 because all the previous delivery slots you've used are past 5 o'clock or whatever it may be. I mean, it's not rocket science if you just think about it in that way.
Okay. Tian at the back, there's a question around data, and I know that you do a lot of things around data. I think you should come up and speak a bit around data. But as a question to everyone, we're talking a lot about data. If we have that data, do we even know how to interpret or even use it? Because we can talk all we want about data, but if you have it, or do you even know how to collect it yourself? How many people have websites, but you don't even know the stats? Let's not even go much into it, the basic visitors that go onto your website. But I think data is one thing that Tiani should also just tell us a bit, but he's a bit shy. Can we take the last, he's coming. One question from Musia before Tiani takes a sweep at the data question.
Hi guys, my name is Sia. I run a software development company in Cape Town, but we're trying to branch here in Joburg as well. So just to give a comment, actually, not to ask a question around shipping, right? I think I've read it on that book, Alibaba, or I've read it somewhere. If you guys remember Relay, where one has got a stick, just runs to a particular stop, and then they give it to somebody else. So I think they're using that model that if I'm going to ship something to a destination, I go from one point to another. Then I give that package to that person, and then that person takes the package somewhere else. So in that way, they deconstruct having one sort of company going to deliver that thing and then come back as well.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone's well. Bradley, how are you doing? I'm well, thanks. I've got a question around payment methods, right? Online, especially it's around convenience part of it. More of an idea. Why can't we use airtime in conjunction with the telecommunication companies to pay? So you say for example, I have Google Play Music, and okay, it's fine, I understand. But I can pay for my subscription with my airtime. Otherwise, use the 10 alternative methods that was mentioned.
I don't have the answer. I don't know. Maybe there's a business there. Anyone else got an answer? Why can't I use my furniture to pay for my online? No, but seriously. What, here locally? Oh, you're saying using airtime? Yeah. They tried to launch in PSA, but it didn't really go anywhere. I don't have the answer, but I know there are some regulations around airtime being used in monetary format. I can't remember what they are, but yeah, I don't have the full answer to that. But there could be a business there, man.
Hi. Hi, everyone. I'm Dudu. My question is not directed to you, Bradley, but maybe anybody in here who can help or advise on what are the latest marketing trends in e-commerce? Because we know print media, it's changing a lot. You have your boom gates advertising at the back of toilets and stuff like that. So what are the current trends in e-commerce? And obviously I know social media is a big one, but I think technology changes every 3 days. So how am I going to keep up, And then what are the training opportunities that are available in order for one to stay competitive and relevant in this space? Because like I said, it changes a lot. So, if I'm going to be doing this for the next 10, 15 years, there's going to be a lot coming up and I have to keep up all the time, Where do I go? Thanks.
Does someone in the audience want to answer first?
Danica at the back, there's a question for you.
Yeah, I've got some answers, but let someone else take it. I've been talking enough.
If you could just come.
Did you hear the question? I didn't. Oh, okay. I was asking what are the marketing trends in e-commerce, so in order for one to stay relevant and competitive, as well as what training opportunities are there? Because technology changes every 3 days or half a day, and then how do we keep up?
Okay, so what I've found, so I haven't actually been working for UAfrica for very long, but what I've found is that in the e-commerce space, it's all about being there. So what we found is that face-to-face interactions actually help a lot more than almost anything you can do online. People want to ask questions, they want to hear about your product, they want to hear from you, they want to see your face, things like that. So being at events, being around, chatting to people, networking is massive. Social media, obviously, it's not only about putting ads online and boosting your ads and, being, amplifying your social media. It's also about showing the face behind the brand. People want to see the person. They want to see the personality behind it. They want to see who you are and why you love your product and why you love your brand. Training, believe it or not, you can find a whole bunch of social media training online. There's a Facebook group called Future Females. Insane. Absolutely amazing social media training. You can Google it. They have online courses, they have webinars, everything like that. We can actually learn a lot more than I think a lot of places can teach you. No names mentioned.
Marketing trends. So I think in South Africa, we tend to be quite okay at the sort of superficial, if you're talking about marketing trends, I'm talking about what they deem performance marketing. So performance marketing is around using paid media to drive sales. So specifically Google, paid search, and display advertising as an example. I think we tend to be really poor at remarketing. So we tend to get people to a site, get them to our e-commerce site, but then in terms of actually remarketing back to them in an intelligent way, we don't tend to do that very well. And internationally, that's a big trend. So you might notice it here, you add something to your cart and then all of a sudden that shit's following you everywhere around the internet. But I think you can be a little bit smarter than that, sort of look at where someone is in that customer journey. And, have they signed up? Cool, they've signed up, but then they dropped off. What sort of messaging do we give to them? So that's one trend, I think. I think the second thing that data has shown is that marketers, being the fools we are, have used social as another broadcast medium, and people are going to spend a lot of money cocooning themselves from social and online advertising through ad blockers. Forrester predicts people are going to spend $20 billion by 2020 protecting themselves from ads and cocooning themselves. So I think it goes back down to authenticity and storytelling, and the content you put out on social is actually around, does it add value? Everything you put out, sort of ask yourself, does it add value to my audience. Not just like, cool, I'm going to put this product up, big sale, fucking buy. Like, actually, we reviewed this product, and here's like an online review and an objective review, and this is what you should look out for. And I don't know, I'm using random examples, but if you can actually think, does it add value to my community? I think that's a trend, or not a trend, it'll be something to stay. It's got longevity. In terms of training, yeah, go for it.
Whoa, 2 mics, cool. Yeah, just to kind of add on to the storytelling thing. So what we found a lot is that human stories work for South Africans. So like showing actual people like using your product, buying your product, saying like, oh my God, I really love this like shea butter that I bought online and it's the best shea butter ever. So people really love that. And what we found, I think on the paid media stuff, like you can put a bunch of ads, what we found at least, is that we've put like a bunch of ads on Facebook and Google and stuff, and people just kind of like scroll past. But like if there's a human being there, it like changes absolutely everything. And so what we've branched out into is like using influencers locally. And these don't have to be like Bonang or like massive influencers, but just like somebody with like a little bit of footprint, and actually going back to the authenticity point, right? Like somebody who looks like your best friend or like your aunt or your cousin or whatever, and them saying that this thing is cool and that you should look out for it for some reason. Like people believe that, and people then kind of go out of their way to get that product.
You've hit it there, because the research, sorry, I'm heavy into research and data. The research shows that people trust, obviously their peers, word of mouth, but they also trust people like them, so who they perceive like them, more than anyone else. And I hate the I word, no offense, like influencers, like I think it's bullshit, like in terms of its traditional sense. But what you should look up is something called nano influencers. And well, that's even below micro. So nano influencers are just ordinary people in your social media community. They don't want to be influencers. They don't even have a big following, but they are so authentic, and they actually carry your message in a much more authentic way. And rather using a large number of those than 2 or 3 micro influencers.
Thank you. Hi, guys. Just one last thing to add for your marketing mix. No one said it now. Email marketing is actually the biggest ROI for e-commerce, and actually the most important thing to do to keep in touch with your customers.
Okay, so mine is just more adding a comment to how we use data that we get on e-commerce, and then also the last mile delivery. So I sell my tea on Take-A-Lot, and the reason for that was, one was scalability. I'm in Gauteng, and I needed to reach people in other provinces, and I don't have to worry about delivery and phoning my customer, are you at home, can I deliver? I just take it to the warehouse in Kempton Park and I make it their problem, which is what solves for last mile delivery for an SME, especially if you're a sole trader. And then the second thing in terms of data, for me, being on there has been even more powerful than being on a retail shelf. I'm in retail, pop-up markets, and e-commerce. But the power of e-commerce has given me data in terms of profiling who my customer is, age, gender, race, where they're based, what type of tea and flavor that they like. And then that's also, I'm able to use that data to expand into which retail stores must I go to next. So I think it's very important for SMEs to get onto the platforms that you've highlighted this evening.
Good point. As you said, now you understand customers, right? So now you can build your business.
Do you have any last set of questions? Okay. As the gentleman is coming, Brad, in South Africa, what does the future hold in terms of e-commerce, and what opportunities are there? What should we be looking out for and moving to those spaces?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity. So currently, e-commerce sales as a percentage of total retail is sitting at 1.4%. So, and it's growing between 20 and 25% year on year. So you're working off like, I think our total retail sales are just over like 1.1 trillion, and we're only doing 14 billion rand worth of e-commerce sales. But you're going 20% or 25% off of what is becoming a significant base now. So I think once we crack that 2%, we're really going to see things flowing. I think there's a lot of opportunity. I love like sitting in rooms with like entrepreneurs and like hustlers, because that's kind of where I come from, well, where I still am. And I think for me, there's been a huge underinvestment by the big players. But I'm talking about the big traditional retailers. They see the sort of like 1.4%, and they're like, oh, why should we waste our time there? Why should we invest there? Why should we build trust? Why should we build credibility? We've got a big mall culture in South Africa. It's going to stay here forever. I think they're missing out massively. I think there's the future here. Consumers are become more tech savvy. As we said, there's high smartphone penetration. People want access to goods. And yeah, we've got a big mall culture, but I think that'll start dwindling down in the future. So I'm hopeful from an e-commerce perspective. I think there's a huge amount of opportunity for entrepreneurs to pick up the pieces that the big corporates aren't picking up. Yes, you've got Takealot, which makes up most of the market. Takealot, Yappy Chef, One Day Only, they are sort of key big players. But they're marketplaces, and I think there's still, if there's only 14 billion rand worth of online sales happening a year, but people are spending 1.1 trillion rand, think about the gap. Just think about the gap that exists, and the opportunity there. So yeah. I think, disposable incomes, all the trends are in the right direction.
Sorry, I got very comfortable. My name is Vincent. I've run a few online businesses over the last few years. And I just have two questions for you. The first one is, where can we, preferably online, find more information, regarding you and what you do? Number two, currently, what sort of businesses are you working in the e-commerce space at the moment? Thanks.
You can go check out LinkedIn. I don't really believe in titles and shit. So maybe if you want to chat to me about what I'm doing, just chat to me or drop me a mail at bradley@platinumseed.com. Businesses I'm involved in, three primary businesses, kind of overlapping into maybe what one might overlap into e-commerce. The one is a digital specialist agency. So we build products, apps, websites, and take them to market, or help businesses take them to market. So we work with big brands, startups, fintech businesses, whatever it may be. That's where our e-commerce experience comes from both a marketing and development point of view. The second business I'm involved in is a social intelligence platform, which basically is using social media data to understand your customers better and engage with them better and identify nano-influencers and micro-influencers and start building relationships with them, and also using your paid media in a more effective way around that data. And the third business that I'm involved in is an on-demand app for plumbers, electricians, and locksmiths. So I hate to say it, but like the Uber of, literally suppliers have got an app, consumers have got an app in real time. You put out a broadcast, you get an electrician to your house, you can track them on the app, they quote through the app, they pay through the app. So I hope that answers your questions. TOD, T-O-D. Yeah. Yeah, tasks on demand. Yeah.
Brad, as we closing, just tips, advice, your closing remarks to end off this great night.
Sure. I don't know. Keep hustling, keep pushing. One person spoke about talking about ideas to people and about how people have got money and then they can run with that and make it something really big. I don't have a long entrepreneurial journey, but in my experience, money doesn't solve your problems. There have been businesses that have had huge access to funding, massive access, which have failed miserably, and there are businesses that have had zero capital and have flourished amazingly. And I think just keep putting your customer first and keeping your ear to the ground and hustling. I think that's my final takeout.